Hey yo, I'm Cool Hand Lex, and we're back with Deckademics DJing Production School and Gear Supply. Up on the block today is Ortofon's newest offering to DJs around the world. This is the VNL Cartridge, which I'm going to guess is probably pronounced vinyl. And as I started to get into this review, it dawned on me that as DJs and producers, we largely don't need to worry about how the things we use actually work so long as they do. But seeing that Deckademics is an institute of scholarly party rocking, understanding the basics of how the needle and wax do their dance will allow us to effectively evaluate both what we need and the equipment we have at hand.
So let's understand what's actually happening here. First, this is what the grooves of a record look like when heavily magnified. In this case, we're looking at a stereo audio recording, where the edge of the groove closest to the center of the record is the left audio channel, and the outer edge is the right. If we flip these grooves to the side and view them as they would be played, you'll see that looks just like a waveform, because that's exactly what it is. The needle, which is technically referred to as a stylus, is tipped with a hard material like a diamond or my mixtape, and for our purposes is either elliptical or spherical in shape. An elliptical stylus will have more contact area and sit deeper in the groove, which offers better frequency and phase response, but may jump out more easily on a dirty record and produce more cue burn if you're scratching with it. Spherical or conical styli are shaped as the name would suggest and sit higher in the groove, sacrificing some stereo separation and fidelity for an improved tracking response with potentially decreased wear, all at a lower cost of production. That stylus is attached to one end of the cantilever, and for most DJ carts, the other end of that cantilever has a magnet attached. When the stylus is mounted on the cart, the magnet end is surrounded by small coils, creating a tiny magnetic field. The cantilever is suspended by a little bitty bushing, which helps the stylus maintain contact as it moves through the groove. As the stylus bangs along the recorded sound wave, the opposite end of the cantilever moves around in here too, and these tiny changes in the magnetic field induce a small electric current, which then exits the cartridge at the rear posts, to the head shell, the tone arm, mixer, speakers, party people dancing. This process of converting one form of energy to another is called transduction, and that's the entire job of every phono cartridge. To take that physical kinetic energy created from the vibrations of the stylus moving through the groove and convert it into an electrical signal. Congratulations, you're a scientist now. So that's barely touching on how all this works, but now that we have a rudimentary understanding, let's see what the vinyl is all about and how it's getting it done. This moving magnet cartridge is being marketed to turntablists and portablists by positioning itself as a worthy successor to the discontinued Shure M447. And actually, other than kind of cribbing the whole aesthetic, the vinyl isn't as much of a Shure stand as my first impression implied. I've always appreciated that Ortofon has long bucked design tropes by giving their cartridge bodies fun colorways, but not here. Instead, using colors, and I quote, meticulously selected to emphasize sturdiness and DJ aesthetics, which is a really fun way to say they made it black and white. Sonically, we get a full 20 to 20,000 hertz response with 20 dB of channel separation. Output is 6 millivolts compared to 9.5 on the 447, with a recommended tracking force of a whopping 3 to 5 grams. By comparison, the 447's recommended weight is just 1.5 to 3 grams. Now, I've shared enough DJ boosts to know that far too many of you out there just slam the counterweight to the front and assume everything's hunky-dory. Well, when you do that with a vinyl cart mounted on an Ortofon head shell, you sit just on the edge of the recommended tracking weight at 5.1 grams. I call that dummy proofing. Ortofon calls it market research, noting in the vinyl press materials that they have, quote, always studied the feedback of their customers and how they utilize the products. Touché. The vinyl is being offered in an introductory pack that features 3 different stylus options, a choice I can't remember ever having seen in a DJ cart. All sport the same spherical diamond stylus, but differ in compliance. Compliance is the term for how much motion the bushing allows the cantilever to make. So a high compliance stylus has more give in the suspension than a low compliance stylus. With the vinyl intro pack, you get the flexible 1 stylus with 16 micrometers of movement. The 2 is labeled rigid at 15 and the 3 is firm at 14. By comparison, the 447 has way more bounce to the ounce, coming in at 20 micrometers of lateral movement. In my usage to this point, the biggest difference I can say I found between the 3 options is when scratching with old, really beat-up records. The 1 and 2 styli seem to track slightly better over scratches and warps than the 3 did, and that's exactly how I'd expect them to perform. They're otherwise identical, so choosing your stylus will likely come down to some combination of your preferred feel, the setup environment, and the condition of your records. I've had carts in the past that needed a certain amount of burn-in time before that bushing and cantilever suspension seemed to reach its full potential, but all three of these styli gave no illusion of really needing that right out of the box. It might seem a little insignificant as well, but not all stylus cutouts give the same view of the grooves, and the way this is shaped along the bottom gives a clear sight just beyond the contact point, and it doesn't seem to sacrifice any surrounding protection in doing so. Speaking of, a protective stylus cover does come with each one, but it's unlikely to stay in place if jostled at all, so transport these with that in mind and make sure they're secure. In order to have some idea how any of these specs actually translate into the real world, I set all the levels on my mixer to 12 o'clock and recorded tone from a brand new Serato record. First using the vinyl with Stylus 2 at 4 grams, and then with the 447 at 3 grams. I examined 30 seconds of tone and found the RMS output on the 447 to be 2.18 dB higher than the vinyl. I also just grabbed a record at random from the back wall, and it happened to have a nice 808 drum break on it. So I recorded that as well, where the 447 was 2.19 dB louder. This 447 stylus has seen at least 100 hours of use, and since I don't have that kind of time on any of these vinyl styli yet, I'm not going to make too much of a sonic comparison. They do have different sound profiles though, and it should be of little surprise that the 447 has a lot more emphasis in the low end. In my use, the vinyl seemed to have a very even response, with no real frequency or energy imbalances, none that jumped out to me at least. And on the cut, the vinyl is excellent. It took a lot of intentional disruption to make these things jump a groove. No cart can be immune to it, of course, but they stood up to anything I asked of them. I also asked the homie and fellow Deckademics instructor Nico Flores to put him through the paces for a bit, and here's what he had to say.
Yo, stop fronting and use your head.
So there's a look at the Ortofon vinyl cartridge. Now, we all know DJs are finicky creatures, and there's tons of cats around the world that have been reluctant to give up their precious. And, you know, there's really good reason for that. It had rock solid reliability, insane compliance and tracking while scratching. It represented a good value, and you could find them everywhere. I was kind of giving the vinyl some grief earlier because the name and color scheme are a little on the nose for my taste, but I really think it's all kind of part of the design. The colors match with every setup. The sound is even and predictable without heavy coloration. It stays pocketed in the groove, and you can even pick the stylus that's best for your situation. There isn't anything really showy or necessarily groundbreaking about the vinyl, but there doesn't need to be. At the end of the day, all we really want is equipment that confidently performs the required task the same way every time. And that's really what made the 1964 M44-7 design from Shure so popular. Ortofon seems to have taken that essence and distilled it all the way through this full implementation of the cart. They made it for everybody. Scratch and it stays in the cut. Mix and any genre you play is faithfully represented. Are you just itching to overweight your needle for old time's sake? It's made for you, bro. Still a little early to comment if the durability and lifespan is gonna last forever, but I think it's fair to say Ortofon has a long track record of making excellent quality products. Now, I didn't really get into the weeds with the sonic profile too much because honestly, most of the people watching this are going to use the vinyl predominantly with control records. But all that information is available if you want to dive in. The intro pack with 3 styli is an incredible value for the first timer or the pro, and a pair will last you a very long time. Hit up Deckademics.com/shop to grab your vinyl carts and some head shells if you need them. And check out all the DJ and production equipment we carry. Follow me everywhere at Cool Hand Lex and the school at Deckademics to hear about all the classes and the events we have going on. And on behalf of everybody here at the school and the shop, I just want to say a quick thank you for your support in 2020. It's been a really wild year, and we appreciate you rocking with us. As always, you can't download practice, so you better get to it. Bless up, DJ Indiana Jones. Peace, y'all.